New Year's Eve was supposed to be harmless. That was the lie I told myself while sitting at the table. White tablecloth, polished glasses, my family arranged like a brochure photo. No one questioned anymore. My father, Charles Pierce, lifted his champagne with the calm confidence of a man who always believed the room belonged to him. His voice carried easily, practiced, the kind people trusted without realizing why. "This year has been generous to us," he announced, eyes sweeping the table before settling on me. "And tonight, we wanted to do something kind." A pause followed. Not an accident. Never with him. We didn't want Madeline spending the holiday alone, so we invited her. The smile that accompanied it was gentle. That was the sharpest part. The entire content of the video is a fictional work created by the writing team of the Revenge Pulse channel, intended to reflect common conflicts in families and society, helping viewers recognize their emotions and choose a more positive way of living. My brother Grant leaned back in his chair, amusement flickering across his face. A cousin let out a polite laugh, unsure whether it was expected. My mother, Helen, adjusted her napkin and offered a look that suggested gratitude should be my response. Kindness. That was the word chosen to explain why my presence felt like a favor being collected. The familiar heat crept up my neck, but it stopped there. Something steadier took its place. Generous. My voice carried evenly across the table, especially considering how much of your portfolio is legally in my name. The effect was immediate. Glasses paused mid-air. Grant's grin slipped just enough to notice. Helen's eyes darted toward my father, then away. Charles recovered first. A soft chuckle filled the gap, smooth and dismissive. Always joking, he deflected, lifting his glass again. "That's my daughter." Daughter. Asset. The difference had always depended on who was benefiting. Grant jumped in, eager to restore the mood. "She means she helps out sometimes." Family stuff. Family stuff. That phrase had signed me onto more paperwork than I cared to count. The conversation moved on without me. Deals, vacations, a new property Grant was chasing. I listened, not out of politeness, but because listening had taught me where the leverage lived. Charles caught my eye once more, a silent reminder that this was his stage. The message was clear behave, and the night would pass. I placed my glass down untouched. Early morning tomorrow. My chair slid back calmly. Didn't want to be rude. Helen reached out, fingers brushing my sleeve. Concern carefully curated. Already a nod. No explanation. No apology. As I walked away, I felt it something shifting behind the polite smiles and unfinished toasts. Not regret. Awareness. If this moment feels familiar, stay with me. What happened after that dinner didn't unfold in a single explosion. It arrived quietly, through documents, phone calls, and decisions made without asking permission. And by the time they realized what had changed, the power had already moved. The drive back to my apartment passed without music, without calls, without the reflex to fill the silence. My phone stayed face down in the console, vibrating once, then again. I didn't check it. At a red light, my mother's name lit up the screen. I let it fade. Inside my apartment, the door closed with a soft click that felt louder than the restaurant ever had. Shoes came off. Keys landed in the bowl by the door. The quiet wasn't empty. It was watchful. A text finally broke through. Grant's message arrived first. "You didn't have to make it awkward." Awkward. That was the word chosen for years of paperwork disguised as favors. Another buzz followed. Longer this time. My father's name. No message. Just a missed call. Deliberate in its restraint. The laptop waited on the desk, already open from earlier that day. I sat down without hesitation. Not shaking. Not angry. Focused. An old email folder surfaced with a search. Pierce family accounts. Messages stacked neatly, each one carrying the same tone. Just routine. Temporary. "You don't need to worry about this." My reflection stared back from the dark screen between clicks. Calm, clear. Whatever they thought that dinner had settled, it hadn't. It had started something I'd avoided naming for years. The first document opened slowly, like it was resisting. A scanned deed, older than my career, older than the excuses. The lake house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho filled the screen, the address unmistakable. My name appeared once, then again, typed cleanly where ownership lived. Not trustee, not beneficiary, owner. I leaned back, letting the word settle. All those summers they posed on the dock, all those photos captioned family tradition, all of it framed as generosity, none of it matched what the paper confirmed. Another file followed. A revolving line of credit opened years ago during one of Grant's temporary setbacks. The balance line froze my breath. $285,000. My name listed as co-applicant, responsibility spelled out in language that didn't soften for family. I remembered the night that signature happened, my father's voice steady across the kitchen counter. This keeps everything stable, just until things turn around. No mention of risk, no copy sent afterward. A third window came up, the family credit card. Transactions scrolled past in neat rows, flights, renovations, dining charges from places I'd never been invited to. The balance hovered just over $43,000. The account holder field didn't list my parents. It listed me. The room stayed quiet as realization replaced doubt. This wasn't neglect. It was design. My name didn't appear by accident. It appeared wherever liability needed a softer landing. A memory surfaced, uninvited. Charles leaning back in his chair, reassuring smile in place. You're not using your credit anyway. Let it help the family. The cursor blinked at the top of a blank page. I typed 3 words and underlined them twice. Correct the record below it. A list formed without hesitation. The lake house. Every shared account. Every obligation that didn't belong to me. Another email notification flashed across the corner of the screen. Grant again. Dad thinks you're being dramatic. Dramatic didn't look like this. Dramatic didn't come with timestamps and legal language. The documents stayed open, lined up like witnesses. For the first time, I wasn't reading to understand them for someone else. I was reading to take something back, and I wasn't going to announce it first. Olivia's face appeared on my screen before I finished the call ringing. Hair pulled back, glasses already on. The look she reserved for work, not sympathy. Start at the beginning. Her voice cut through the small talk I hadn't offered. Not the feelings. The paper. I tilted the laptop, letting the documents speak first. The deed, the credit line, the card statements. A pause followed, longer than comfort. Then a slow breath. All right, this isn't messy. It's deliberate. The word landed cleanly. They told me it was temporary. My hands rested flat on the desk. That it helped everyone. Help has consent, Olivia countered. This has exposure. Her cursor moved across the screen as she shared it. Highlights appeared where liability lived. Ownership clauses circled. Dates aligned in ways families never liked to explain. You can sell the house, she continued. It's yours. Sole ownership means no permission required. Another pause. Heavier this time. They'll come for the story. Olivia warned. Your father won't argue facts first. He'll argue optics. Reputation. Loyalty. I'm not interested in optics. That's good, she replied. Because optics don't hold up in court. A new document opened, clean and blank. Here's how this works. Quietly, cleanly. No speeches, no warnings. She outlined it like a checklist. Not a plan for revenge. Freeze the exposure. Close what belonged to me. Remove my name where it had no right to be. And when they ask, my voice stayed level. Olivia's gaze didn't waver. You don't explain while you're fixing the problem. Paper beats narrative every time. The call ended without comfort, without reassurance, just clarity. When the screen went dark, the list from the night before waited beside the keyboard. I added one more line beneath it. Do not ask permission. The room felt smaller after that, but steadier. The call came the next morning, not from my parents, but from Olivia. Her tone stayed professional, efficient. I have a buyer, she explained. Cash. Clean. They've been watching that area for years. The words "that area" carried weight. Coeur d'Alene wasn't just property to my family. It was proof. Every holiday photo, every humble brag story, every introduction that began with "we have a place on the lake" traced back to that house. Price range, I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't soften anything. $1,280,000. Olivia replied. They can close fast if the paperwork holds. It did. That was the problem. She walked me through the process without ceremony. No speeches about memories. No reminders about how families feel when assets move. Just facts. Title clean. Taxes current. No liens. My name carried all the authority they'd borrowed for years. An email followed within the hour. Photos attached. A formal offer. My inbox felt heavier with each attachment, like proof gathering its own gravity. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Your father mentioned you were upset last night. Her message read, "We can talk when things calm down." Calm. Another word chosen carefully. I forwarded the offer to Olivia instead. The signing happened digitally. No long table. No witnesses pretending neutrality. Just my name placed where it had always been. This time by choice. My hand didn't shake. Not because it was easy, but because it was overdue. Confirmation landed minutes later. Closing scheduled. Funds pending. The house they bragged about was no longer a symbol. It was a transaction moving forward without their blessing. Grant's name flashed on my phone, then disappeared. My father stayed silent. That silence felt different now. Less powerful, more calculating. I closed the laptop and let the quiet sit. The decision didn't feel like loss. It felt like removing something that had been used against me for too long. The countdown had started. The first call came from the bank, polite and cautious. "We're confirming a request to freeze a revolving line of credit," the representative explained. Voice carefully neutral. "The balance is currently $285,000. This action will notify all parties." That's fine. My response stayed steady. "Please proceed." A pause, then keys clicking. "We'll need verification." There may be a short review period. Minutes later, another call replaced it. Different institution, same tone. "You're listed as the primary holder on this account," the woman clarified. "Closing it will deactivate all authorized users." "Close it." She hesitated. "There is an outstanding balance of $43,000. I understand." The confirmations began arriving in clusters. Emails titled "Action Required," "Account Status Update," "Notice of Change." Each one felt like a wire snapping. My phone vibrated again. This time, my mother's name filled the screen. "What is happening?" Her voice cracked through the speaker. "Cards are declining. Your father can't access the travel account. That account isn't his." Silence stretched thin. Then a softer approach slid in. "This is all very sudden. We should talk before things get complicated. They've been complicated for years." The line went dead. Grant didn't bother calling at first. His frustration arrived in blocks of text. "You froze the credit line. Do you have any idea what that does to my deals? Dad is livid." Another message followed almost immediately. This was supposed to be temporary. Temporary, again. That word kept resurfacing, like it believed repetition could rewrite contracts. The bank called back. Firmer now. "The freeze is in place, but full removal will require additional documentation." "That's fine," I replied. "I'll send what you need." The third institution pushed harder. "We need confirmation that this action isn't retaliatory. It's corrective." A breath on the other end. Understood. By evening, the pattern was clear. Where my name disappeared, access vanished. Where my signature no longer carried risk, convenience collapsed. My father finally broke his silence with a voicemail. controlled but sharp. We need to discuss this in person. You're creating exposure you don't understand. I listened once, then saved it. Another email landed from Olivia, short and precise. This is working. Expect pushback. Don't explain yet. Outside. The day slipped toward night unnoticed. Inside, the accounts kept screaming as they adjusted to a reality they'd never prepared for. And for the first time, the noise wasn't coming from me. My father didn't announce his arrival. The knock came once, firm, practiced. When the door opened, he stepped inside as if the space already belonged to him. Eyes scanning, calculating. This doesn't need to be hostile. His voice carried the tone he used with investors. We're here to fix a misunderstanding. There isn't one. He removed his coat slowly, setting it over the chair with intention. You froze active credit lines. You closed accounts tied to ongoing obligations. That creates instability. Only for people relying on my name. A faint smile appeared, patient and controlled. Families share exposure. That's how growth works. Then why was my name the only one carrying liability? The smile thinned. He took a seat without asking, folding his hands like this was a meeting he chaired. You're emotional. That dinner didn't create these documents. A brief pause followed. Then a pivot. You've always trusted me to manage complexity. You don't live in this world. I live in the consequences of it. His jaw tightened, just enough. The house sale needs to stop. That property anchors our portfolio. It anchors your image. You're overreaching. His voice lowered. That asset wasn't meant to be liquid. It wasn't meant to be leveraged through my credit either. Silence pressed in. He leaned back, assessing. What do you want? The question sounded generous. It wasn't. I want my name to stop working harder than I do. He exhaled. Slow. There's a cleaner way. I've prepared something. A folder slid across the table, heavy with paper. A family settlement. We consolidate exposure, realign responsibilities. Everyone wins. I opened it without haste. Pages filled with careful language, softened phrases masking sharp edges, liability redistributed, future obligations quietly returning to my column. This puts the risk back on me. It keeps the family intact. I don't negotiate my freedom. His composure cracked for the first time. You're making a mistake. That assumes I didn't understand the setup. He stood, gathering the folder with restrained frustration. You're acting without foresight. I'm acting with it. At the door. He turned once more. This ends poorly. The door closed before he could finish the thought. The apartment felt steadier after he left. Not because the threat was gone, but because it had finally been spoken aloud, and I hadn't moved. The folder stayed on my table long after my father left, its edges perfectly aligned, as if order alone could make the contents reasonable. I didn't open it again until Olivia arrived on my screen, her expression already set. Walk me through what he brought. I turned the camera toward the papers. Family settlement. That's how he framed it. Her eyes moved quickly as I flipped pages. Liability clauses. Forward-looking obligations. Language that pretended to simplify while quietly shifting weight. There it is, Olivia pointed out, voice sharpening. This section reroutes future exposure. Not today's mess, tomorrow's. So I close the accounts, sell the house, and still carry the risk. Exactly. He's trying to turn your exit into a long-term guarantee. A bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. He called it peace. Of course he did. Olivia leaned back. Peace is cheaper when someone else underwrites it. My phone buzzed again. A message from my mother this time. Your father is beside himself. This doesn't have to be a war. War. Another word chosen carefully. Olivia continued. If you sign that, everything resets to look cooperative while keeping you tied. It's clean enough to survive scrutiny. So that's the trap. Yes. And it's a good one. That's what makes it dangerous. I stared at the signature line. My name waited there, familiar, obedient, the same place it had waited every other time. I'm not signing. The words came out steady. That choice will escalate things. They already are. Another message came through, this one from Grant. Dad tried to protect you. You're blowing this up. Protect. Another recycled justification. Olivia nodded once. Then we moved to phase 2. What does that look like? It looks like removing his ability to define reality. She tapped the screen. The estate attorney. Langford. If the record gets corrected there, your father loses leverage. He trusts Langford. That's why it works. The silence between us carried understanding, not doubt. I slid the folder into a drawer and closed it. Not hidden. Contained. I won't explain this again. My voice lowered. Not to him. Not to anyone. You don't have to. Olivia replied. The paper will do it for you. When the call ended, the apartment felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were bracing for impact. My phone buzzed once more. Another missed call from my father. This time, I didn't save it. The settlement waited in the dark, unsigned, exactly where it belonged. Robert Langford's office carried the quiet confidence of someone who had never needed to raise his voice. He greeted me with polite surprise, the kind reserved for unexpected variables. Charles didn't mention you were coming in. That was intentional. I placed the folder between us, thinner than my father's settlement. Heavier in consequence? Deeds, credit summaries, estate drafts marked with dates that didn't align as neatly as they were meant to. Langford adjusted his glasses, scanning in silence. The longer he read, the slower his movements became. This lake property, his finger rested on the page, was intended as a future gift. It was titled as present ownership. Yes, a measured pause followed. That distinction matters. I didn't push. I didn't accuse. I waited. These later drafts, he continued, voice tightening slightly, blur responsibilities in a way that could be misinterpreted by a regulator, by anyone looking closely. The room shifted, not toward me, away from risk. Langford leaned back, hands folding together. I need to correct the record. What does that involve? Clarifying ownership, annotating liability, making it clear that certain obligations were never yours to begin with. He hesitated, then added, for my own protection as much as yours. That's fine. He nodded once. Decision made. Your father won't like this. I'm not here for approval. A faint, humorless smile crossed his face. No, you're here for accuracy. When I stood to leave, he stopped me with one final thought. Once this is amended, the story changes, permanently. I'm aware. Outside, my phone vibrated with another message from home. I didn't read it. The file had been corrected. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the one place where denial couldn't survive. And for the first time, my name sat exactly where it belonged. The confirmation arrived without ceremony. The lake house closed. The funds transferred. Taxes accounted for before temptation could speak. What remained belonged to me, clean and unentangled. A week later, I stood in a quiet studio space not far from my apartment. The lease rested on the counter, my name printed clearly at the top, not as a favor, not as leverage, as ownership. My mother reached out first. We met on neutral ground, her voice softer than I remembered. I should have protected you. The words didn't erase anything, but they landed without conditions. I acknowledged them and nothing more. My father waited longer. When he finally called, the authority in his tone had thinned. I didn't think you'd push back. That assumption carried risk. The truth didn't need sharp edges. We don't gather the way we used to. There are pauses now, careful choices, space where expectation once lived, And in that space, something steadier has grown. Here's what this taught me. Family can offer love, history, and belonging. It does not get unlimited access to your name, your credit, or your future. Silence is not the same as peace, and compliance is not the same as loyalty. If any part of this feels close to home, stay present with it. Read what you're asked to sign. Ask the uncomfortable question. Choose clarity even when it costs approval. Stories like this are told so we don't have to learn these lessons alone. If you're still here, listening, take that as your sign. Your name is yours, and it's allowed to stand on its own.